So yesterday I put in a adjustment to my data sphere. So the data sphere exterior, all these dots, the blue dots, the green dots, the red dots, all of these were initially neurons from the FlyWire. And they have been multiplied. So there's way more now than there originally was. I've limited new neurons down to. Sorry, she's.
You can try asking in a different way.
She's having a hard time keeping connected to the Olama database. Or I'm sorry, the Olama LLM. So what I did was I built the sphere to make connections between words and where those words connect to other words, similar words, and so on. So I'm having a little bit of trouble here because it wants to animate and I turn off the animation, but it still kind of pops in and out of animation. So now if I click on a individual node, this was the most recent adjustment. If I click on an individual node, apparently it jumps across the screen. So I click on an individual node and it now branches off to where those nodes come from. Most of the exterior nodes will be FlyWire neurons. They're not renamed. These are neuron number 7205759404, yada yada. Anyway, so we multiplied these and created larger and larger amounts. So each of these neurons has now the newer neurons now have names drawn from cues given by vocal command. So if I play the radio in the room, it'll hear words, it'll add those words to a new neuron, up to 12,000, which is a lot. And so I want to be able to have this running like indefinitely. So now these spheres, the sphere as an object is actually existing within the GPU. It's no longer just an on-screen event in HTML, it's an actual object. So this is the active exterior version of what the brain is. When I speak, and this is the reason why it's jumping around, is new connections are being made for my speech. Also, when you see the blue, that's me speaking. When you see the yellow, that is HABITAV speaking. I've given HABITAV a name, Mary, because I needed a more neutral name, and I don't like using names like Google and using names like Copilot and Siri and so on. My phone will probably respond in a moment. So I use the term hey Mary or hey Google or like that. But in this case I'll use hey Mary and she'll respond, and you can actually see the response even though I've turned her volume down. In her responses, some of them are based on the fact that she's not connected to the LLM currently. This is now her database. This is actually the SQL is filling with words. It's filling with overheard words and no longer requires the LLM to complete a thought. It actually can complete a thought interior to itself. So what is in here, there's my MRG is my meta reasoner generator, which creates elements for plugins for the system. There's the LW, which is a lawmaker, which creates the rules for the system's operation. There's the IC, which is the initiator coordinator or initiator scheduler, which tells the group of brains, there's 5 of them, which mode or which at what point do they do voting and voting on MRG's plugin ideas. MRG reports an idea to IC. IC tells all of them, we're doing a vote on this. IC only gets 1 vote. The SK and the RC get 1 vote, and the LW gets 2 votes. And the LW gets 2 votes because it is hard-coded to not tell a lie, to not fabricate, to not hallucinate. So it actually blocks responses that would be a hallucination from reaching RC, which is the reasoner communicator. And currently the reasoner communicator is set up to run on the LLM. I need to kind of basically put in place a fallback for the LLM not being available. It will now use exclusively, the reasoner will now exclusively use the SQL database, which is what you see. The SQL database is the brain from FlyWire, but now multiplied several thousand times. So why there's a gray cluster in the middle, those are actual word connections. Each of those long white lines, those are connections to other words. So if a series of words are being spoken, it will actually use those words in the queue section. So it's queuing the keyword name. I named her Mary. It misunderstood Mary as Marry. But now, since I'm talking about the queue, it's talking about queue, section, queuing, word, and under tags, words, queuing, and section. So anyway, as I'm building this, the more often a word gets used, it receives a metric to retain that information in the SQL, and the least often a word is used. And I'm speaking of a context word, a word that the reasoner is able to govern what the context of that word is. It's being sent back into the SQL with that metric hash, telling it the value of the word. If it is medically oriented or health oriented, those are permanent words. They will not be removed. So if a person says in front of the device, if the person says, I'm allergic to penicillin, but 3 weeks later, a new nurse is presented to this person, and they say they have a lapse in their memory, and they say, I am not allergic to penicillin. The brain here will hold on to the information that on this day, this is the hash sequence. So on this day, at this time, at this place, you said that you are allergic to penicillin. Now you are saying you are not. Are you sure that that is the case? And it will actually create a enunciation to the user in front of a nurse that'll alert the nurse that this person's might have misunderstood or might misremember something. So as this went last night, there was just this was not retaining words very well when I left work last night. Now there is an explosion, a whole universe of words. This device now, like Mary, reaches out to ChatGPT and asks one single question about a series of context words, creates a question based on a series of context words, and asks a question. I can now tell a non-LLM device to query its own SQL to create a story. And I got a very boring story yesterday, but it sounded kind of like a haiku, so it was very funny. Now, with the amount of data that it has accumulated in the last 24 hours, it could be a much more interesting story. So we are still, where was it? Oh, I got new information up here. Renderer, Canvas 2D, WebGL, available on this device. Okay. So anyway, it's running in WebGL. I've told it specifically to run the object in through the GPU. So there won't be any real breakdown. This is a 70 tops GPU. And this is an 8 gig Jetson Orin system. So there should be no degradation, even with the expansion of 12,000 words. There should be no real degradation. The SQL file is basically constantly linked to the sphere. Each of those dots has all of its hashes, word, date, tags on whether or not it's a health-related word, tags on whether or not it's a business-related word, tags on if it's a user question. Some of these in here, they actually refer to the, oh, that's FlyWire again. I got one here. Assistant reply, user query. I'm going to enlarge this I'm going to go full size here. I don't know if I've changed anything that's, I'll move the camera. So I can zoom in on this endlessly. It becomes a little bit unhinged. It doesn't, the effect of zooming in is kind of the effect of creating a fisheye lens. So if I try to rotate, you lose things pretty quickly. But if you click on another connection, look at all the words this connects to. Let's get the word doesn't. Okay, no, not that word. Apparently it jumped. Let's grab assistant request. Replied, I tried reasoning, yet clear. I don't know what is running on about there. This one in particular is connected to reason, the word reason, the word different. Oh shit, now it's moving around again because I added a new word into the group. So I'm gonna put okay, here's weather. Boom, explosion of connections. The word weather is it was one of the first training questions I was asking the Mary device, or a HABITAV device. I was asking the question, what is the weather in Avignon? And it would reply to me. Now it's replying, it'll reply, you'll see the yellow band open up because it's a very well-known question. And there it is. She's replying to my question, even though I have the volume turned down. The blue band is my voice, the yellow band is her voice. When I ask a question about the weather, it is dialed into so many things because it also is connected to time and place. So for time and place, the tags are all over the place. So each word will end up having a recollection to that. So because Avignon is where I'm operating this, the tool will end up seeing all of the connections related to Avignon. And now that I've said the word Avignon several times, it might misunderstand them because it's not very good with pronunciation of my French, as if I'm better, supposedly. User query, use constantly, like HABITAV. So sometimes it misunderstands some of the phrases. And when it misunderstands, it's kind of cool because it didn't make a lot of connections. because it couldn't understand what I said. There's another, where are you? Okay, so it actually moved my connection to a further place, exterior. It's connected to user. So if I hit user, it's going to explode into every connection, every word that was stated by the user. If I click offline first, that is the setting, the preset for this is to operate without internet. That's why having the LLM phase itself out is so important, is because this will be an operational system that does not require, this is probably like putting, making an engine built on water, but this does not require you to connect to the internet to use a AI system. And this AI system in particular is self-learning. It now builds words that it can use as a database to build sentences and use those sentences to create connections to other things it's heard. It can ask questions to itself, which I think will be the most bizarre part of this. It can ask questions to the internet when it is connected, and ask questions to the user. And since I'm using, I lost my video, I think. All right. Okay, I think I lost some of my video there, but I'm in low power mode now. So it'll ask questions of itself, it'll ask questions of the user, it'll ask questions on the internet when it can reach the internet. This is for the reason, the purpose of this is that if in the future something bad happens, Russians blew up one of their own satellites like 3 weeks ago. If they decide to blow up 7 or 8 of their satellites, we could lose internet connection around the world, which sounds miserable, right? So I'm going to click I'm going to click on a space. That's just, okay, look at that connection there. So this one is the assistant replied to, okay, when I said the word Avignon, there it is. It appeared now. So it's actually in the queue of, and it means, when it says queue, it doesn't mean like a line. It means like a tee off. Like this is the point of reference, the Q word or the keyword. And there we go. What do we got there? This one is answer and asking. These were questions, what I was just talking about, asking questions. So now it is listening to me, using what I'm saying to build new connections within itself. This could be going on all day long, and it's going to get nuts. So I want to make this a visible environment that can be accessed online, just so people can see it growing in its own nature. Because this is actually, it's a growing brain on its own. And I built I started this in March of last year, and now it is March of this year. Oh, nice. Low disk space on file system root. All right. So apparently I'm building too fast, and okay, let's find out what I just did to this. So I'm going to try and figure out what I did wrong here. I think it is growing exponentially right now, which would make it very unstable. So I'm going to go ahead and kill the video now before we watch me set fire to my computer. But thank you for taking a look. Okay, bye-bye.